was out playing in the in the field that was behind our house, and I don't even know why exactly I was that far out. I mean, I could still see my house, but I know a couple of teenage boys. I think it was probably 3 of them. I can't totally remember how many now, but I was pretty young. So they said, "Hey, do you want some ice cream?" Right? And being a stupid little kid I am, I never thought of anybody hurting me, or nobody had ever warned me about people or anything. So I said, "Yeah, I want ice cream." So before I know it, and they had picked me up and had thrown me up in the air. I landed on my back. You know how when you get hit in the chest really hard, that it takes your breath away and you can't breathe? So I was laying there and I couldn't breathe, and they had pulled my clothes off of me. And I thought I was dying. I really thought I was dying because I couldn't breathe. I don't know how long it was until I could breathe. But they ran away after that and said something about come to the house with the big dog or something. I don't remember. But I had gotten up at some point and ran home and went down to the basement. My mother was there, and I went and I had told her what had happened, and she got mad at me, and she yelled at me, and she had basically blamed the whole thing on me, and that kind of had set up something in my mind, that whenever something were to happen, that it would be my fault. That's the psyche of a little kid. But the strange thing is that these things followed me my whole childhood. I mean, if there was a pervert within 50 miles, somehow they found me. And I never could understand that. I used to think as a kid, and we didn't go to church or anything, but I used to think that I had some kind of symbol on me that they all knew about. I mean, that they could. I mean, I can't even describe what that is, or that I was just, there was something so inherently evil in me that they all found me. I mean, because in the wildest places, I would get molested, or this would happen, or that would happen. And I never did tell my mother again. Because it was just. That part was too painful. It set me into this whole life of this thing following me, that was me, that the choices I made because of that, would put me in more harm, but I couldn't not, Annual thing, I started running away as a teenager because I was, so unhappy, and, I'm jumping out 2-story windows. I know, yeah. Yeah, that was, I stayed at the Safe Place shelter for a while, and I mean, you couldn't, they never could figure out what was wrong with me, quote, because, why would this kid from this nice neighborhood, be running away? She's got everything she needs, but there was just something absolutely so broken in me, that I was trying to run away, for myself, if nothing else. And the last time I ran away, it wasn't the end of the abuses by any means, but last time I ran away, I was 19, so I guess I wasn't a runaway, maybe, but I don't know. I was still a teenager. But I left with this guy and went to Alabama, and I lived in a vehicle for a short time and lived in this mouse-infested, horrid place. You gotta think why, but but I did. At least I had my own life, I figured, I guess. I don't know. I was walking home from my job, one of them, because he had stolen my car. Another big long story. But when that happened, I was raped. And I blame myself because I shouldn't have been there, I mean, and, I know it was, it could have been prevented. And I had this thing, people have reactions to things. Some people scream, they run, they hit, all these wonderful reactions. To me, I do nothing. And that doesn't even seem like a reaction. It seems, just like you allow it. But
it's survival, though.
it is. It doesn't always make sense to people because it's not one of the big ones that you hear about. But it really is a thing. It's just paralyzing.
Sure.
You can go into a strange place in your mind and not even be there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. That just and there were some after effects of that definitely changed things for me, and I had to deal with the consequences of it, and I didn't have people around to really help me to know the right things, and I've made decisions that I'll live with the rest of my life.
Sure.
Because of that. But after all that, we had our son in school, a private Christian school. I saw him. I would see this kid sitting here praying, right? And we never went to church to speak of. Maybe a couple of times. And when I grew up, we didn't go. But maybe a couple of times on Christmas here and there. And I think twice when I was a teenager, because it made Mom feel good. So that was kind of. And the only thing about religion I knew whatsoever was I had read. And this just plays right into it. Dante's Inferno.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. That's. So, I already had my place in hell. I knew where I was going.
Gosh.
I mean, I knew. I could tell you exactly what level I was on. I thought, well, maybe we should try church. maybe I can do, these kids a favor and give them a moral compass, because I wasn't sure I had done so well. I decided to go check out the church that was associated with the school that my son was going to. I've never left since, I mean, awesome. I sat in the very back and cried for probably 2 months, And then one day, I couldn't tell you exactly why. It doesn't even make sense to me, because this is not my personality, I'm not too much out there. I seem to be thrown out there lately, but it's not my comfort zone. But I walked down, gave my life to Christ that day, which... I mean, it was a big, sobby, horrible mess.
That's the best one. Those are the best ones.
And this was the one time they call people down, and nobody ever goes down when they call like that, right? Of course I did. My legs are walking. What am I doing? But I remember afterwards, I turned around, and there's hundreds of people coming at me, and what I felt was just absolutely overwhelming. I mean, I guess you'd say my life story up until 40 would have been just ugly and not pretty, and not happy. Definitely not happy. Not healthy. And but God changed all that.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
I started hanging around the church. I was so afraid they'd think I was a stalker. I really was. I get a lot going on there. I was just petrified they would, but I couldn't not hang around there, Sure. It was a happy place. Yeah. It gave me some kind of peace that I never had anywhere else. So I would find things to do at the church, bring my little kids and, or take them to school and come and sew chairs up or something ridiculous, just so I could be there. I made friends with the receptionist and all kinds of stuff. But eventually there was a guy, pastor at the church who, he was over maintenance and everything. And he was very different, and he made me very nervous to begin with. I wouldn't really talk to him for the longest time. But one day, he came over to me and he was asking me if I wanted to work part-time, that he had seen that I had, been here doing stuff all the time, and, he wanted to know if I wanted to work just a few hours. So yeah, that'd be great. One day he came to me and he said, "You need to forgive God today." I'm like, whoa. Yeah, we hadn't really talked about that.
That escalated quickly.
Wait a minute. And it was true, because you can claim that I love Jesus and all this stuff that we do, but you can also hold them hostage, because the whys. Why didn't? And those are hard questions, because they're never answered.
Right.
And that was his point. That you just forgive, and you don't try to understand, and you move on. Before I knew it, God had, told me to do some more studying on things about abuse and these different things. So I started doing even more studying on that. Before you knew it, somehow I knew I was supposed to do something with human trafficking, And I thought, why human trafficking? Because I wasn't trafficked. But there's so many similarities to the sexual crimes, that are involved in human trafficking. So I had went and talked to my pastor and told him what my thoughts were, and that I was going to start some kind of organization. I couldn't find anything to belong to that fit with me. I tried, I really did. I didn't want to be a leader. I really did not. I still sometimes about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, I'm like, oh, I can't do this. It was not my desire to start something new. It was never my desire. I searched different ministries for the right fit, or, the right place to be, and there just wasn't anything. Just wasn't. So, I thought, okay, well, then I guess I'll start my own. You would find it pretty surprising that you really have this kind of activity right here in the really nice end of town, but it goes on virtually unnoticed by most people while they're shopping and eating dinner and all this other stuff, and these things are happening, just right behind them.
Right.
What I always find amusing is when you come into a hotel like this, it's just really kind of sketchy, as my kids would say, and you find a Lexus or a brand new SUV or something, and that this person is not not staying at that hotel, because a lot of these places have bed bugs and everything else. You wouldn't even know what's going on. That's the heck of it, unless you sat out here for hours and watched. To understand trafficking, the difference between trafficking and prostitution, you have to understand one is a victim, one is not, but so much of what we see as prostitution really is trafficking, because there's some kind of force, fraud, or coercion.
Right.
And you won't even know that exists unless you can get in that person's head.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem with that. You can't. So it's so much easier when it comes to prosecuting to just do something at a lower level, than to try and do human trafficking, because they don't get convictions from it.
Right.
I would say my first 40 years definitely propelled me to want something different, anything different. And thankfully, when that happened at the crescendo, I was in the right place and not the wrong place. I work with a lady who has a home here in Kentucky for women that have been victimized. And when we're together and we teach a lot together, she was a victim of trafficking and prostitution. And she's also an African American lady, and she's taller than me, and like I always say, she dresses much nicer than me. But I'll tell people, what's the difference in her and I? And besides the obvious ones. But the biggest difference is proximity. Why my life didn't end up just like hers. Why hers ended up the way it did. I lived in eastern Jefferson County, and there still was some kind of protection being in an area that wasn't impoverished. And I guess it's just how angry it makes me that there are children that have to grow up in maybe bad situations to begin with, or not perfect ones, but then through no fault of their own, are put in much more compromising situations. And I find that very unfair. And that's something I want to change to the best of my ability.